Yeah, Mr.
Right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call a hearing to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and its traditional lands of the Ojibwe, the Cree, Dakota people, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Territory 3 territory. My name is Ron Merritt. I'll be your chairperson, I guess, this afternoon. And introducing the panel members, to my left is Mr. Harvey Diamond, and via Zoom, Ms. Lynn Nesbitt. Our recording secretary is Jaswinder Kumar, and our assessor from the city of Winnipeg is Mr. Wong. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note that you will be placed in the waiting room until the property is called upon. Then it'll be your turn and you will be admitted to the meeting. Kindly follow along the City of Winnipeg Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host has admitted you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak in respect to your property. Once your hearing has been concluded, you may leave the meeting. This afternoon, this hearing will be hearing application for revision of the assessment roll according with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested that is described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anybody speaking in these matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The board is appointed annually by City Council and is independent of it, along with the city administration. We make our decisions based on the evidence provided at this hearing and issue a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board decision in respect to application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to application for exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the board's order. In respect to the hearing this afternoon, I will confirm the points of appeal with your application to be addressed, with each applicant following the swearing in. We'll then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then will be the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have the opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all evidence about the application is brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket this afternoon. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live stream recorded and will be part of the public record. This afternoon, we'll be hearing items 1 to 10 on our docket. Mr. Kumar, can you please affirm the assessor and the applicant testimony?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
I'm Wong.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Dupont, please state your full name.
Henry Dupont.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
All right, I think everybody's familiar with the routine, so we will first deal with the first item that we have on the docket, which is 11 St. Michael's Road. Mr. Wong, the floor is yours. Or, yeah, we're okay? Yeah.
Okay, the subject property. The subject property is 11 St. Michael Road. The roll number is 080-040-70000. The file number is 22-3428. This is a residential apartment block that's 9 stories high. It was built in 1968, but we have an effective year built of 1978. There are 90 suites with 98 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. located in the south end of the city near St. Michel Shopping Center. On page 4 are some interior pictures. On page 5 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $1,173 to get a potential income of $1,267,000. Use a 3.2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $1,226,000. And we use the 45% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $674,000. Capped at 5.25%, we have an estimated market value of $12,849,000. On page 6 are some rent comparables showing that the rent reviews are in line with what's in the market. On page 7 is a summary of the income and expenses estimated by the owner. In 2020, their income was $1,298,000. Their expenses are $717,000, but their repair and maintenance figures were fairly high at $3,000 per unit. Typically, it might be 500 to maybe a couple thousand. Their repair and maintenance figures likely includes capital. So I've applied a more market repair and maintenance figure of $1,517. So making that adjustment, their expenses are $581,000, and their net operating income is $717,000. As you can see on the bottom of page 7, the repair and maintenance is the average of what was used by Altus in 2018 and 2020. And using the average repair and maintenance of $1,500 per unit, the resulting NOI is $717,000, which supports the model net operating income at $674,000. On page 8 is information on how we derived our cap rates. On page 9 are some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%. On page 11 is the income statement supplied by the owner. And on page 12 and 13 are the repair and maintenance figures from Altus in 2018 and 2020. You can see on page 13, in 2009, their 2009 and 2010, their repair and maintenance figures, their repair and maintenance amounts were $118,000 and $120,000, but you can see in the subsequent years they've increased dramatically. So it looks like they are making improvements to their property. To finish, the model rent and the model cap rate are supported by the market, and the actual NOI is, after you adjust for the repair and maintenance, it supports the model net operating income. So I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $12,849,000.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. Dupont, questions?
Yeah, you said the I got a lot of echo. Is that echoing for you too?
Sounds like it might be from your end, maybe.
You've
Here.
got mute, Mr. Dupont.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying the repair maintenance were lower in 2010, 2011, which is over 10 years ago. Would you say it's not very relevant as to what it was 10 years ago?
I would think it would increase, but it wouldn't increase by 200, 300, 400%.
And then your calculations, you use the repair and maintenance that Altus had for the 2018 and 2020 assessments. Do you accept what we did in the past, but you don't accept what we do right now?
I wouldn't necessarily accept the way your approach to doing things because I'm not sure how accurate the values they lead to. But in my experience, the repair and maintenance figure of 1,500 per unit is reasonable. And so I felt it was appropriate.
Now your average is based on a lower amount for 2018 and a higher amount for 2020. Would you say that the repair and maintenance should be going up and it'd be maybe overly aggressive in your part to use the average?
I don't think so.
Have the rents gone up from 2010 to 2020?
Probably.
That's all questions I have.
Thank you. Ms. Nesbitt?
Yes, Mr. Wong, this is maybe a question that relates to all of them, but I'll start with this one. Have you inspected the property?
I've not.
Okay. Have you inspected any of the properties on the docket today?
I've probably been to at least a couple of them, but in years past.
Okay. I'm looking at your pictures on page 4. Are those actual photographs of actual suites, or is this like a model suite that they're using on their advertising?
This would be from their website.
Okay. Okay, and then your model, most of the parameters are model parameters, but you said you did adjust on the expense side. Is that correct?
No, the model parameters are the model parameters, but on my page 7, it's just a summary. It's a summary of the 2020 income statement. That's at the end.
Okay, so you're just using that then to
support the
to
model.
compare against your model.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Of course. Okay. I think that's all the questions I have then. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Diamond?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, I just have a couple, Mr. Wong. I think on your presentation here, why are you giving us data in regards to, I think it's, there's no page number, but this is, it goes back to 2013, 14, 15. Why would you present data? I mean, we have a reference date of April the 1st, 2021. So what, and it, this gives us information, and we're not really, I mean, we're looking at it, but, it goes back and it tells us what the assessment was in 16 and 18. So, but why would you present this, this chart here? So
the reason I presented it is because I used their 2018, Altus's 2018 and 2020 repair and maintenance figures to use a more market repair and maintenance figure.
Yeah, but we haven't gotten to Mr. DuPont's presentation. I'm just looking at yours.
Yeah, and I'm showing you where I got that information from.
Oh, yes, but why would you give us old data? That, I mean, you normally, if you're going to stabilize, and we haven't looked at Mr. DuPont's yet, but they normally stabilize over maybe a 3-year period. We don't go back, several years.
Yeah, I looked at the repair. Well, the thing that was maybe out of the ordinary is the repair and maintenance figures in their 2020. And in order to, their repair and maintenance figures are high. And so to get a more market repair and maintenance figure, I looked at Altus's 2018 and 2020 repair and maintenance figures, and
Yeah.
1,200
Yeah,
and
well,
1,800.
that's more reasonable to, to stabilize and how you conclude, the expenses, but, to go back to. Like I say, these dates are 2013, 14, and 15. Why? I mean, that's really too old.
Oh, it is going fair back, but I guess maybe what I was trying to illustrate is that the repair and
Yeah.
maintenance figures
Okay.
were substantially lower in 2009 and 2010, and you can see the substantial jumps in 2011 to 15, just to show that they're likely introducing capital expenditures into their repair and maintenance figures.
That's an assumption that you're making.
Well, I mean, if their expenses are 120,000 and then all of a sudden in 2013, it's 930,000, I guess it would be an assumption that I'm making, but there's probably, I would say it's likely the case.
All right. I thank you. Mr. DuPont, your presentation.
I have a redirect from that. You mentioned repair maintenance 900,000. I see 273,000 for 2020.
Just in on page my page 13. On my page 13, are you there?
Oh, okay. So in 2013,
Yeah.
it shows 930, and we excluded that above 721,000 major repairs in that year, which we excluded.
Yeah. I guess my point was that they likely include repair and maintenance, capital expenditure in the repair and maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. DuPont, the floor is yours for your presentation.
Okay, I'll start with the appendix because we have some photos and some plans. So I'd like to show that to you first. So it shows the ad. So this is the features. Relatively normal air conditioning, a balcony, etc. And the first photo, which is a big open area with some vinyl plank, but there's no dining area. So they have a breakfast table. You see that, and with 2 chairs only. And then the second picture is the same thing. They show that the island with the breakfast table. The long kitchen, but no dining area. Then it shows the bedroom and the bathroom. Now, if you go to page 23, you see that's an older plan. And see top right, they had a kitchen, then they had a dining room, and they had a high wall there, part high wall, sorry. And they had a dining room that was 11 by only 5 feet wide. So there was a very small dining room. So now they have removed that dining room and they just put in that island. So that's what they've changed. The bedroom, if you look at the bottom left, it's 11 feet by 7 feet wide. So 7 feet wide is extremely small. So they have a very, very small bedroom there. And the next page is the page 24 is the 2-bedroom. So there again, they replaced the dining room that's gone because it was too small, it was only 5 feet wide. They replaced with island, breakfast bar. The second bedroom, top left, is only 8 feet wide. Master bedroom is a fair size, 17 by 10, but the second bedroom is very small. So there was some design flaws in that, and they made the best of it by opening it up, but then there's no dining room. There's only place for 2 people to eat, both 2 bedrooms and the 1 bedroom. So if we go back to the start of our report, I say the variant age is 1798, so we're going backward, I guess. It's like an apartment in Europe, I guess. So the assessors got 1978. Sorry, so we changed the numbers there. So they went 10 years more than the actual age. We have the photo. Some of the photos there. So it has a big front yard, which is kind of useless in a way. And it backs right behind a 7-Eleven. And then if we go to the maps, which are a bit further, page 7, I'll show the map so that you see the aerial photo. The big front lawn, the rear parking, and then it's off same area, so behind the 7-Eleven, and the entrance is actually from the back alley, from the same area. You take back alley to go to their parking, or there's a little back alley behind the 7-Eleven to go to the parking in the back. There's no entrance from the front per se. Then we show some of the maps in the area, and aerial photo from Google shows where it is. So then we can go to the start of the cap rate, page 15. So subject is 1978 effective, and 1960 to 1979, 6 stories plus. We have 5.5 cap rate from our cap rate study. The actual age 1968. It also fits in that same category. So we have some remarks saying so no indoor parking, no dining areas, narrow bedrooms. These are negative features. But Globe General has been spending money on the suite, so they have very good conditions for their suites, but they do have some flaws that will carry forward with the property. So they'll have harder time to rent due to the narrow bedroom and no dining areas and no indoor parking when you compare to other high rises. So the next page is the 16 is the income approach. So line 1 shows the potential gross income. So the 1,150,000 in 2017 is now 1,284,000. So they increasing the rents beyond the guidelines. So line 5 vacancy was 4.6, 2.7, 4.0, 5.2. So we stabilized at 4.6, which is in between the last two, 2019, 2020. So we're less than actual. And then we added the laundry and parking at the actual 2020. The assessor has 1298, I believe, in the EGI. And we moved the bad debt, which they have under expenses. We moved that up to line 6. And as a positive bad debt, it was a recovery. And that's why we have 1303. We're slightly higher than the assessor's reported or the financials, mainly because we moved the bad debt up there. So line 13, we stabilized 1305, which is a bit more than the actual and more than the assessor. The assessor 1226, we're 1306. Expenses, we stabilized virtually all the expenses a normal way. Actual 2020 for insurance, utilities, etc. Some of the small items, we go 3-year average. The only subjective issue would be the repair and maintenance, line 27. We're stabilizing 2311. And we'll get to the repair and maintenance in the next page. So line 31, our expenses are higher than the assessor, 669 to 552. Then our cap rate is 5.5 versus the assessor 5.25. So we're disputing the cap rate as well as the NOI. So our value is 1,567,000 versus the assessor about 1,300,000 higher than us. So they're increasing their rents. The line 3, they're getting $11.90 per suite for rent, which is quite high for 1968 building. The suite mix above is 56 one bedroom, 34 two bedrooms. So mostly more one bedrooms. So it's fairly high rent, and they're getting those high rents mainly because they're putting money in repair maintenance. And what Globe does on an ongoing basis is they always upgrading the suite upon turnover, so that the repair maintenance they have is based on the turnover. So it shows up each and every year as the places are vacated. So we're saying if we use the rents that they're generating from the repair maintenance they're doing, we should use the repair maintenance that is based on an ongoing recurring basis. So next page 17, is a repair maintenance, which we obtained from the general ledgers. The first 4 items in red, these are items that are usually capital expenditures, except when you're just spending on the roof as repairs instead of replacing. The roof, they had some amounts, it came to a relatively low amount, 2531. We could have added it as a recurring expense, but we did not. Extraordinary repairs above, we did not allow any of those. And the parking lot, you have small repairs each and every year, so we allowed that. We would not allow a replacement of a parking lot, but we've allowed the repairs on it. The general building, it shows what they have for every year. That's the remaining repair maintenance that is not categorized. And most of those items are usually small items like locksmiths, etc. But we've allowed much less than actual. So the Globe is spending a lot more than what we allowed. So we use the lowest year times 50%. So we use only 23,000 when it's averaging 77,000. Flooring maintenance, they do repair some of their floors, and not just replace. Flooring replacement, we maxed it at 97% of actual. The 5-year average, sorry, it's 46,000. We maxed it at 45,000, which is $500 per suite maximum. That is based on the cost of replacing flooring on average for 1 and 2 bedroom suite. We took the cost and then we divided by 8 years. So anybody exceeding $500 would likely be exceeding a 8-year life. And if so, they're doing everything in 1 or 2, 3 years, we'll say, well, then that should not be allowed because they're doing it more often than an 8-year life. So here they're just slightly above, but we still maxed it. Appliance replacement is $195 per suite. We've allowed it because our maximum is $225. Painting, Globe is often above the average. $225 is what we did. We studied a bunch of other managers to see what their average painting was, and now we came to an average of $225. And Globe has been exceeding the average painting for years and years. And you've explained to me that they repaint virtually every suite that comes up on turnover. So they spend more on the painting to make it more attractive to rent, and they get less vacancy and they get higher rent. So that's their style of management, but nevertheless, we maxed it at 52%. Counters and cupboards, also they're replacing the counters and cupboards on an ongoing recurring basis, but we maxed it at 75% of our maximum. So we're giving less than what they're spending. Electrical, when we went with the average times 50%, I'm not too sure we should have done that. So $128 per suite. I think we have to redo that again to go to a municipal board that would allow the whole thing. Plumbing, we also excluded some of the high years. Actually, the electrical is what we lost 128. It would have been 256 if we did not go 50%. Still, I think the 256 would likely be allowable. So we're overly generous there by cutting out by 50%. Plumbing, we also use it only 50%. HVAC mechanical, we excluded 1 year. Pest control, we excluded 1 high year. So when we do all these stabilization of individual items, we come to 2311 repair maintenance. And we were overly conservative on some of them, and Globe is spending a lot more. So if you look at the last line, these are the actuals, excluding the CapEx, which is the first 4 items in red. So they're spending 3,500, 5,600, 3,500, 3,000, 2,800 per suite. And that's what they're spending on this apartment block in order to get the rents that they're getting, relatively high rents. And we're at 2311, and the average is 3709. So all their adjustments downward was 1,400 less per suite than actual. So I believe that our 2311 is very, very conservative compared to what they're spending. So we plug that in the previous page, and that comes to our value, 11,567,000. This is the assessor 12,849,000. That's my submission on this part. I have a cap rate study to also present. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. Mr. Wong, questions of Mr. Dupont?
Sorry, I guess no questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Nesbitt?
No questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Diamond?
I have no questions. Thank you.
I have none either. Mr. Dupont, you said that you have a cap study to present, or?
Yes.
Is it one that we have heard before?
I'm sure you have, yes.
Okay. Do you want to briefly touch on certain things? Or leave it with us because, like you said, we have heard this before.
No, I'd like to go to it. Could you tell me which version I sent, R5, R6, or 7?
Mr. Dupont, did you send any?
I don't see anything. I just see a Collier's cap rate study.
Yeah, don't have it.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot. Okay.
Okay. So I think that concludes that property, unless you want to, either party wants summation.
I'd like to give a verbal of my cap rate study.
That's fine.
We have 10 comparables. We show all the financial statements. We show how we derived the cap rates with income approaches. The assessor does not give any background data for their cap rate, does not show how they arrived at it. So ours are all done very thorough and all explained. And we have the data that supports the cap rate that we use in this property. Thank you.
Mr. Wong, any questions in that regard?
So I think you're muted.
No questions.
All right, panel members, any questions?
No question.
Okay.
No questions.
Do you wish either party wants summation?
Just wondering, did I send a rebuttal to the assessor's cap rate?
I don't know. I'll have our secretary check that.
See it.
He says he submitted rebuttal.
I'm asking.
I don't think so, Mr. Dupont.
It's not on the agenda here. It's on our list of things we have.
All right. I think that concludes
Yeah, there
that,
was no rebuttal.
that part. So let's go to the next property, which is 660 Dakota Street. Mr. Wong, the floor is yours, and there is a recommendation on this property.
Sure.
So-
I'll read the property onto record and I'll go through the recommendation as well.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Okay, the property is 660 Dakota Street. The roll number is 08004247500. The file number is 22-2493. This is a residential apartment block that's 6 stories high. It was built in 1965, and we have an effective year built of 1978 to reflect some renovation work that's been done. There's 94 suites with 26 indoor parking stalls and 49 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. Once again, it's near the St. Vital shopping center. On page 4 are some interior pictures of the subject property. On page 5 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $1,173 to get a potential income of $1,324,000. We use a 3.2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $1,281,000. And we use the 46% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $690,000. Capped at 5.25%, we have an estimated market value of $13,160,000. On page 6 are some rent comparables, showing that the rents we used are in line with what's in the market. On page 7 is a summary of the income and expenses submitted by the owner. You can see in 2020, their income was $1,194,000. Their expenses are $620,000, and their estimated operating income was $657,000. To stabilize their operating income, I used their 2020 income of $1,194,000. I averaged their expenses from 2018 to 2020 at $586,000, giving a net operating income of $607,000. The $607,000 is much lower than what the model is estimated at $690,000. So I'm recommending a revised value based off of $607,000 net operating income, capped at 5.25%. The revised value is $11,568,000. And on page 8 and 9 is information on how we derived our cap rates with some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%.
Mr. Wong, do you have a workup for the recommendation?
Page 7.
Yeah, it's on the bottom. It's on the smaller chart on page 7.
Page 7?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I got it here now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. The remainder of my brief is the income statement supplied by the owner. So for the subject property, the model rent and the cap rate is supported by the market, and the revised NOI and revised value. The revised NOI is supported by their actual NOI. So I ask that you accept the revised value of $11,568,000.
Mr. DuPont, are you aware of the recommendation and are you in agreement?
I agree with the revised NOI. I still dispute the cap rate only.
Quantum?
Cap rate.
I dispute the cap rate only.
You're disputing cap rate only?
Yes, their revised NOI is 1,000 less than my stabilized. So we're virtually in agreement on the NOI now. And I just continue to dispute the cap rate.
I don't quite follow that.
What he's saying is he doesn't like the cap rate, he likes the NOI because it's lower than his,
Yes,
but he.
but what about quantum?
Well, so the quantum, he's not happy with the quantum because it gives.
Okay, are you gonna make a presentation in regards to quantum then?
Oh, yes. I
Okay,
still
okay.
dispute the final value.
Okay.
So we,
You can just basically say that you don't agree with the recommendation, and that's it.
Yeah, that's what I'm basically asking. So,
Okay,
no,
okay.
the answer is no.
No, I accept part of the recommendation, but not
Yes,
full.
okay.
Yeah.
Any more questions, Mr. Dupont?
No questions.
Okay, Ms. Nesbitt,
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Diamond?
No questions.
I have no questions either. Mr. Dupont, the floor is yours.
Okay, go to the appendix, page 17. Shows some of the photos that it was renovated. So you show the renovations it has. So then we go to our page 13. Do you see our net income line 33 is 608, 759, and the assessor's recommendation is 607. So we're basically the same. I don't care which one you use. Line 27, repair and maintenance is we stabilize 1,032, and repair and maintenance is low because it was renovated in 2010, and they had not started yet to start replacing the floors and the appliances, which they will do shortly. So if you look to the next page, page 14, middle of the page, flooring replacement was virtually nothing. It's $11 a suite versus a normal or a maximum of 500. And appliance replacement is 29 a suite versus 225. So they're spending very, very little flooring and appliance, and that's why the repayments is only 1,000. So it's a risk when you buy this property that your repair maintenance is going to go up in the future because those flooring and appliances are coming to the end of their life expectancy. So we go with the actual repair maintenance as we usually do, but it does present the risk that it will be increasing in the future. So that's another reason to use our cap rate. We'll use 5.5, which is for the subject age group, but they have the additional risk that the repair maintenance is going to go up because it's only 1,000. So that's my presentation. I use a similar NOI as the assessor, but we dispute the cap. We use 5.5. So that's my submission.
I thank you, Mr. Dupont. Mr. Wong, questions of Mr. Dupont?
I guess, yes. Previously, on the previous property, you had said that you were conservative in your repair and maintenance figure at 2,300 per unit. So at a little bit over 1,000 per unit, would this be really conservative?
No, I'm going with site specific in both cases.
Okay.
So the 1,000 is a lot less than normal. We could say it's 1,500 to 2,000 is the normal, but I'm going with 1,000. I'm going site specific both cases.
Okay. That's my only question.
I thank you, Ms. Nesbitt.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diamond.
No questions, thank you.
None. Either party wants summation?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, let's go on to 180 Worthington Avenue. Mr. Wong, the floor is yours.
Okay. The subject property is 180 Worthington Avenue. The roll number is 080-210-80900. The file number is 22-1251. We have this as a residential apartment block that's 5 stories high, 1 to 5 stories high. It was built in 2008. It has 75 suites with 2 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. On page 4 is some information on the subject property. This is an assisted living property and a supportive housing with a supportive housing program. In situations like this where it's assisted living or potentially a nonprofit or affordable housing, we do look to the market to try to value this property as if it were a regular apartment block. On page 6 is our income valuation summary. We use average rent of $852 to get a potential income of $768,000. We use the 3.2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $743,000. And we use the 55% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $333,000. Capped at 4.45%, we have an estimated market value of $7,485,000. On page 7 are some rent comparables showing the rents that we've used are in line with what's in the market, might be a little bit lower than the market. On page 8, are some CMHC rents. Using CMHC market rents, the rent potential is $826,000. So I believe this supports the model rent that we've used at $768,000. And on the middle chart on page 8 are some expense comparables for newer buildings that range from 33 to 47%. So we believe that this supports the model expense ratio at 55%. On page 9 and 10 is information on how we derive our cap rates with some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%. On page 12 is the income statement supplied by the owner. You can see that on an income of $616,000, their net operating income is $21,000. So that's why we're looking to the market to establish the value for this property. On page 13 are the CMHC market rents. And on page 14, is some permit work that was done in 2007. There was a $6.5 million worth of work done in 2007. So yeah, when you add a $500,000 land value to the permit value, that works out to a $7 million back in 2007. So this supports the current assessed value at $7,485,000. So when we look to the market for valuing this property, the model rent expenses and cap rate are supported by the market. And when you look at the land value and the construction value of the permit back in 2007, this also supports the current assessed value. I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $7,485,000. That's my submission.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. DuPont, questions?
Yes, so the bachelors is 48 bachelors. Do you know the size of those bachelor suites?
I don't know.
You copied some of the data that they have from their website. So would you agree that they're 256 square feet?
I did not read that.
Your comparables that you have for rent and for CMHC, would they be that small for bachelors, 256 square feet?
Probably not. Probably not. But the 256 square feet probably doesn't include the common areas. And If you look on my page 7, the comparables, like if you look at the gross floor area per unit, they are similar. So if you include those common areas, the comparables are similar.
But their bachelor units would likely be 400 square feet versus the subject at 256. You would agree with that?
I'm not sure.
Now, the supportive housing have no kitchens either. They're just like a hospital room. So would you agree just your comparable and Shimichi would be 2 bachelors with kitchens?
Once again, they might not be exactly comparable, but if you include the common areas of the supportive housing, I believe that they are comparable.
And the 1-bedroom units for the subject have it's a kitchenette with no stoves. So you would agree that your comparables would have stoves on their 1-bedroom? The market
I would say that's likely the case, but once again, the comparables don't have common areas like the subject property has.
So if the subject were to be converted to an apartment, they would have common areas which would be useless because they would be apartment, not supportive housing anymore. But the suites would be inadequate. Would you agree with that? With the lack of kitchens and lack of stoves.
Doing that sort of a conversion is I would say very theoretical. But when you just look at it from a pure square footage basis, per square foot basis, it seems like the comparables that we've used are similar.
And your cap rate comparable, your cap rates is 4.45% on this. Then that's much lower than your cap rate comparables. Where do you see that?
Page 10.
Page 10. Yeah, so this property is newer, 2008. So you'd say that the only thing that would be similar would be 2390 McPhillips.
Age-wise, yes.
And that was 4.79.
Yes.
Would you agree that that particular property is large suite and all sorts of amenities, etc. Big, large suites compared to the subject? It would be superior to the subject.
Potentially, but I believe the cap rate is appropriate and it is within the range. And also, I also have seen cap rates that are below 4% used in appraisals for affordable housing properties. And so I believe that the 4.4 that we've used here is within the range.
Have you also seen newer apartments built in the last 5-10 years, assessed by the city with 5 to 5.5 cap rate?
Maybe a few cycles ago, but more recently the cap rates are pretty low, are in the 4s.
Now, would you agree that 4.45 is one of your lowest cap rates? And can you tell why this particular property has such low cap rate?
I'm not sure why, but this property, that we do have cap rates that are lower, and like I said, I've seen affordable housing cap rates lower than this in appraisals, so I believe it is reasonable.
Would you agree that in the past we have settled at the municipal board the assisted and supported housing at a higher than normal cap rate? There's usually a premium given for those types of properties?
I prefer to not talk about those agreements in previous cycles.
Would you agree that the city normally agrees to a premium cap rate for assisted and supportive housing and independent living? Because there's a business component?
I don't believe that has anything to do with the property that we have today.
That's all questions I have.
All right, thank you. Ms. Nesbitt?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Diamond?
Yes, Mr. Wong, in this property here, I do see a number of bachelor units. They're pretty small. You don't think that would affect the cap rate on a purchaser buying that property to use as unsubsidized housing?
Yeah, the thing is, it would, if this were to transact on the market, it would likely sell as, for its current use, which it would be suited for. But because we don't have very many sales of these properties, we're actually trying to look at this as an apartment building. And when you look at it on a per square foot basis, the value that we have is reasonable, because if you only looked at the 250 square foot unit, then you would be attributing no value to all the common areas and all the commercial kitchens that might be in these properties. And I'm not sure if that would be equitable. So when we look at these bricks and mortar and compare it to other similar apartment buildings, I believe it's a fair way to value this property, even though the units are smaller. We're valuing the whole property.
Yeah, but would you agree too, though, that a property that has as many bachelor units as this property, it would usually transact at a higher cap rate than if it was all one bedrooms and two bedrooms? And even less than perhaps, but I'm just saying all those bachelor suites, probably, I don't know, are they desirable?
Yeah, I guess it could that could be the case, but like I said, this would likely transact as and be used for the purpose that it's being used for right now. And like I said, if you're only looking at the bachelor units and the 250 square foot bachelor units, I don't think it might not be equitable or fair, because you're not valuing a portion of the building, which is a part of the building.
I understand what you're saying. Okay, I understand what you're saying there. Okay, I think you answered the question the best way you're going to. And
yeah, no, I mean, I see where you're coming from, but it's hard for us to take into consideration like 200 square foot of bachelor units, because they don't sell. And so we're just trying to compare it to regular apartment buildings, which we do have sales information on, to try to establish a fair value. And so if in comparing it to just a regular apartment building, I believe we have been fair and equitable, and that's pretty much our primary goal.
okay, thank you, Mr. Wong.
Thank you. Mr. Wong, is there only 2 parking spots for this building?
That's what we have on file on record. But looking at the overview shot, it looks like there might be 8.
All right. I thank you. Mr. DuPont, your presentation.
Okay, the first page is the photo. You can see it's relatively plain from the exterior. It is part of the total complex. 188 Worthington is in the front of this. It's a bigger project. And that one's independent living, so with full suites. And this is for if people graduate away from independent living and need more assistance, we go to assisted living, then you go further to supportive housing. So it's part of their whole complex, but this is a separate roll number. And then the descriptions of the projects, page 6, give you the 3. So the Riverside Lions operate both, and they have independent living at 188 Worthington, which have meals, housekeeping, and laundry and shuttle service. They have all these extra services. And the buildings of 92 one-bedroom at 560 to 630 square feet was relatively small in relation to the market as a whole, but still a lot bigger than subject 180 Worthington. The 2 bedrooms are 750 to 820 square feet. And they have 60 bedrooms, which are larger. They all contain kitchens and balconies. Now, the assisted living under this one, it's for 180. Worthington has 27 one-bedroom suites. They're all 565 square feet. They have kitchenettes with microwave, no stove. This is very important so that if people forget the stove on and they're living at 188 Worthington, they would be banished to go without a stove, and they would likely go to a supportive housing, like a hospital room, if they did not have anything in between. So this is in between. They remove the stove so people cannot have accidents with them, which is really good for in between. This one has no balconies. Same amenities, meals, housekeeping, laundry, and with some additional assistance. So the services are not that much more, but they have less physical wise that they can rely upon. And the supportive housing, which is also 180 Worthington, 48 bachelor suites, and they're all hospital rooms, 265 or 256. We'll have to check the appendix to see which one. They have no kitchens. It's a bedroom with a 3-piece washroom and shower. And it gives you the same thing with meals, housekeeping, laundry. But also have 24-hour non-medical support, including medication reminders, weekly baths, and dressing assistance. Then we saw the overhead map, the next page. And you see that at the bottom of they have some parking there, which is 8 stalls. We have it as 8 stalls. And we show the overall map. And then we should go in the appendix. Now it's on page 19. So this is from Riverside Lions. So they show all 3 of them there. They show independent living, they show the assisted living and supportive housing. They view the different services, etc., which I went to in the previous page. Assisted living, they tell you what it is, what amenities they have, etc. That's where I got all my information to put in the previous page. And they have the square footage or the layout of that suite, 565 square feet is shown there. It shows the bedroom. They have the kitchenette. You see at the bottom, the kitchenette is extremely small, 1 wall, fridge, and they have the sink. And so they have room for microwave on top of that. Then they show the social leisure programs. So they're paying extra. So the actual rents are not used because they have these extra cost for services. And the next page, page 23, shows what supportive housing is. They show the bottom hotel suite, that's only for guest suite. So they're not saying all their suites are called hotel suites, just they have the 1 guest suite. And the next page, page 24, it is 256 square feet. So I have a typo as part of my report where I show 265. It's actually 256. And it shows there it has the bedroom, closet, entry, and bathroom. So it has no kitchen whatsoever. So that's what they have for their bachelors and their supportive housing. And then it shows the amenities, the social leisure program, etc. So I believe we can leave that there now. And then so we'll go back to the cap rates would be. Well, some of my cap rates, page 13. So the assessor is using 4.45, which is very low. We use 6.5. And we showed that our cap rate from the cap rate study is 5.25 for 1999 plus. And we're using a premium for this. So the base cap rate would be 5.25 before considering the site-specific factors. And for the site-specific factor, we have a report from Cushman and Wakefield, which we have the full report in the appendix, by the way. And we just have an excerpt. And it's across Canada. They have a cap rate, fourth quarter 2020, which is right on with our reference date. They show what it is for different cities, and they have Winnipeg there. Seniors housing A is 6.25% to 7% cap rate, and the B would be higher, 7.25% to 8.25%. So I put that at the bottom in case you can't read. So then the next page, page 15, the factors we should consider for that. So the assisted living, normally cap rate for assisted or supportive housing would have a premium to the business component, limited seniors market, and inferior suite composition. The parking of subjects is only 8 stalls, which is 10.7%. So it's very low. So if we were an apartment, this would be a very big negative factor. So we treat it as an apartment. We give it market rents and not the actual rent. Suite size is very small, bachelor's 256 and 1 bedroom 565. Suite mix inferior, 64% bachelor's, 36% 1 bedroom. And the 70.8%, I believe that's typo taken from another report. So it's 64% bachelor's, 36 1 bedroom. Suite finish, there's no kitchens in the bachelor's. There's a kitchenette only, no stoves in the 1 bedroom. So we give it 6.5% due to negative factors, and the Cushman report on the seniors housing, which merits a higher cap rate. Then we show the market reports for college CBRE, which would be for normal apartment blocks. And this is not a normal apartment block. So we have the negative factors and the business components. Page 16. Now we dispute the rent. So we estimate the bachelor is 600, which is really high for a property 256 square feet. And the ad from Riverside Lions does show a real estate rent and the value for the services. It's after a reference date, mind you, because it was just printed now. But they have rents in line with what I'm putting there now. 600 for bachelor, 900 for 1 bedroom. And a 1 bedroom for 565 square feet, I think is on the high side. Nevertheless, at the suite mix that I have, it comes to 708 per suite, and the assessor's got 853 average rent for that. So we put in the 708 rent. We use the same vacancy the assessor, and line 31 and 32, we use the same expense ratio. So then we have the NOI, it's lower to 76 versus the assessor 333. That is mainly due to we have lower rents to start with. Then we apply the 6.5 cap rate. That comes at 4,251,000. And we have the remarks. It shows summary of what I've been saying. So they have high risk because of the business component and the fact they have inferior suite composition and lack of kitchens or stoves. And that would be my report. And just a thing to notice is that at the end is the full study by Cushman. There's page 53. Page 52, 51, page starts around page 50, 49 actually, so 48. So that the full study is there, but the excerpt is there to show what they have for cap rates. So that's my report. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Wong.
No questions.
I thank you, Ms. Nesbitt.
No questions, thank you.
I thank you, Mr. Diamond.
Yeah, Mr. Mr. DuPont, I noticed that you referred to the Wakeman study and seniors housing and the effect. And one thing it talks about is the fact that it seems to me it appears that cap rates were decreased for seniors housing because of the COVID epidemic, which suppressed increased vacancies and suppressed people going into those facilities. And that's something that maybe it was prevalent then, but we're looking at what would a purchaser looking to the future pay, and would that be relevant then if they elevated their cap rates at that time based on the current circumstances that prevailed then?
Their study was for the fourth quarter of 2020. Now, I'm reading on page 46 of the Adobe, page 46. I don't believe they mentioned COVID there at all.
Yeah, they mentioned COVID. I'll find you.
Oh, okay, yeah, seniors at the greatest for severe illness, complications for COVID-19. Did you mention, I don't know if the cap rate is related to COVID or not.
Well, it's a cap rate study, so I think, but anyway.
Yeah, the next page, well, sorry, page 47, they have a cap rate from 2007 all the way to 2020. And actually they show that the cap is going down from 2019 to 2020. Seniors housing A, sorry, is on the top. I think it's relatively flat from 2019 to 2020 on their chart there. Page 5 of the Cushman study. So it appears that the COVID is not what made the cap rate go up. Or did not go up, it was flat, actually.
Okay, and these type of facilities, when they're operated, the owner has other things other than the real estate that they look at, because they provide other services like home care, nursing, meals. We try to divorce all that out of this because we can't base our assessments on those. But we talk about cap rates. It certainly could affect the cap rate because there's other income that's coming in from other sources. And Wakefield, when they're looking at these facilities, would have to look at that when they just take into account their cap rates.
Yeah, the Cushman Wakefield, I agree, would be for the total business, the real estate and the business.
Right.
So the 6.5 to 7.5 cap rate that they have would be for the business and the real estate.
Right.
So
And real estate, right. And real estate ordinarily would have lower cap rates than businesses would.
I didn't hear that part.
Lower residential real estate would ordinarily have lower cap rates than businesses would. There's less risk in operating residential property than there is in running a business. Would you agree?
This is part of the total. They believe that it's the real estate is still impaired by the physical composition and inferior suite mix and all that. So these are I showed you the factors of the physical factors.
Okay.
So they have the physical factors as well as it's still part of a business component attached to this real estate.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in fairness, I see where you're going with this. I think that the cap rate that the model has indicated seems pretty low to me. I don't know if it's as high as what you're asking for. That's all. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Summation to the party.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
All right. We'll go to 188 Worthington Avenue. Mr. Wong, the floor is yours.
The subject property is 188 Worthington Avenue. The roll number is 080-210-81000. The file number is 22-1252. This is a residential apartment block, or we're valuing this as a residential apartment block that's 7 stories high. It's built in 1984, and it has 130 suites with 43 indoor parking stalls and 22 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. Page 4 is some information on the services or the intended tenants. So this is an independent living facility with social and leisurely activities and some on-site services and dining room service. On page 6 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $1,008 to get a potential income of $1,572,000. We use a 3.2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $1,522,000. And we use the 50% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $746,000. Capped at 5.25%, we have an estimated market value of $14,226,000. On page 7 are some rent comparables showing that the rents we've used are in line with what's in the market. And if you, on page 7, if you look at the gross floor area per unit, the subject has 950, and then you look at the comparables that have areas from 842 to 1,105. So that's looking at applying the number of units against the gross floor area, and the comparable rents are those properties are comparable in terms of size. On page 8 are some CMHC rents. When you look at CMHC market rent and you apply the CMHC market rent against the number of suites, their annual potential is $1,772,000. This supports the model potential at $1,572,000. It's about $200,000 higher than what the model is estimated. And in the middle of page 8 are some expense comparables that range from 42 to 54%, and this supports the model expense ratio at 50.94%. On page 9 and 10 is information on how we derived our cap rates. And on page 10 are some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%. And if you'll look on page 10, at the bottom, the sale of 32 Arden. It was built in 1969, but we have an effective year built of 1984, which is very similar to the subject property. The sale price per square foot is $147, whereas the current for the subject property, it's assessed at $115. So I believe that the sale of 32 Arden supports the current assessed value. On page 12 and 13 are is the income statement supplied by the owner and the CMHC market rents. So the model rent, the model expenses and cap rate are supported by the market, and the sale of 32 Arden at $147 a square foot supports the subject's assessed value at $115 a square foot. So I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $14,226,000.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. DuPont, questions?
Your page 8, the CMHC, you show what CMHC has for 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. Normally CMHC has 3 categories, one based on age, one based on suite count, or the type, and one by area. So you don't show anything by area, or so this is for all ages? Would you agree
Yes,
that?
it's for all ages and for the whole city.
That's all the question I have.
I thank you. Ms. Nesbitt,
No questions, thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Diamond,
No questions, thank you.
I have none either. So, Mr. DuPont, the floor is yours.
We dispute cap rate only, so it make it a shorter hearing. You see the photo in the front. It's a large property, has balconies. And then we'll have the map. Page 6 gives the composition of the suite types and the square footage. So of the total suite types, you have 130 suites, but the 45 suites are quite small, 560 square feet. And the next group is 40 suites at 610 square feet for 1 bedroom, which is relatively small. The 1 bedroom should be 700 to 800 square feet. They do have a few large suites, 1,000 square feet, but there's only 2 suites in a 3 bedroom. So there's very, very few feet at high square footage or normal square footage. So overall, they're so small. So then the cap rate page is page 13. So it's built 1984, so it's older than the previous one that we had. High rise is built 1984, goes to our category 1980 to 1998, where we have 5.25. And the assessor has a 5.25 cap rate. So we agree to the base cap rate for this property if it were an apartment block before considering the site specific factors. So we use 6.5, and we show the Cushman study also, and then page 15 we show the site specific factors. We're saying there's a huge cap rate premium for independent living because it has the business component with the meals and housekeeping. They have the shuttle service, laundry, limited seniors market, inferior suite composition. So the parking is also inferior. It's only got 55.4%. So it has less parking than normal. Small suite size. The majority of the 1 bedrooms are 560 to 630 square feet. Suite mix inferior, 71% 1 bedroom. So we gave it 6.5% vacancy, cap rate, right? The next page is the income approach, page 16. You'll see that I did not dispute the rents this time. The assessor has relatively high rent, 1,008 per suite to start with. Nevertheless, I did not dispute the rent. Then we show on top of the page the total parking and the suite sizes we have. There are 92 1 bedrooms at 560 to 630 square feet. And we show the factors affecting the cap rate top right. So then if you go down the page to line 33, we agree with their NOI. After 50% expense ratio, we dispute the cap rate only. So they have 5.25, we have 6.5%. So it comes to the value of 11,490,000 versus the assessor 14,226. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DuPont. Mr. Wong, questions?
On page 15, The indicated cap rate for this property is 5.25% based off of your study, correct?
Based on the age group, yes.
Yeah, and you're adding a 1.25% for due to negative factors.
That's correct.
Uh,
Yes.
are the properties in your cap rate study, are they perfect? Do they have perfect parking mixes, or do they have perfect suite sizes?
We don't have comparisons in that regards, no.
And I guess, do they have perfect suite mixes?
No, they're more like average, but the subject has inferior parking, 55%. Inferior suite sizes, they're smaller than the market. And the suite mix is not as good as the market, so they're below average. The subject's below average. So it's not perfect to the subject, it's average to below average.
Okay. Okay, that would be all my questions.
Thank you, Ms. Nesbitt.
No questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Diamond.
No questions.
I have none, so summation either party.
No, thank you.
All right,
No, thank you.
you're welcome. Mr. DuPont, I think that concludes your part here this afternoon. So results very soon. Thank you for your attendance and presentation.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Okay, bye-bye. Mr. Wong and panel members, we're going to take a 10-minute break and then deal with Mr. Newfield after that.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, we call the hearing back to order, and Mr. Newfield, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 properties. So we'll get you sworn in, Mr. Newfield.
Okay, I didn't know this was an accounting issue.
Okay. Mr. Neufeld, please state your full name.
Rocky Neufeld?
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Wong, we're going to go according to the docket. So the next one is 438 Arnold Street. So whenever you're ready, I think I pronounced that right. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, Mr. Wong, take us through this property.
Okay, subject property is 438 Olno Street. The roll number is 060-705-98000. The file number is 22-2715. This is a residential apartment block that's 2 stories high. It was built in 1968, and it has 14 suites with 12 outdoor parking stalls. On page 2 is the sale history of the subject property. In 2015, it sold for $1,250,000. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. Would be in the St. Boniface area. On page 4 is an exterior picture of the subject property. On page 5 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of we use average rents of $731 to get a potential income of $122,000. We use a 2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $120,000, and we use a 49% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $60,000. Capped at 4.95%, we have an estimated market value of $1,219,000. On page 4 are some rent comparables showing that the rents we've used are in line with what's in the market. On page 7 is a summary of the income and expenses. In 2020, their income was 141,000, and their expenses were 121,000. So, but that included some amortization, mortgage, and some other items that should be adjusted for. And so, after adjusting for those items, their expenses are 73,000, which is 60% of their operating income, and their net operating income is 67,000. This supports the model's net operating income of 60,000. On page 8 and 9 is information on how we derived our cap rates and some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%. And the remainder of my brief is the income statement supplied by the owner.
Thank you, Mr. Wong.
So, yeah, sorry, like the model. I'll just sort of finish up. The model rent and the cap rate are supported by the market, and their actual NOI supports the model NOI, and also the 2015 sale at $1,250,000 supports the current value at $1,219,000. So I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $1,219,000.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. Neufeld, questions?
Yes. Are you relying on the direct comparison approach?
I think you can look at the approaches to reconcile with each other, which is what you typically do in valuation.
Well, what people do private is different. What does the assessment department do? Are they relying on the direct comparison approach?
You can rely on all of that.
Okay, so we'll remember that now. Now, is it some sort of assumption that values only go up?
It's what the market seems to be indicating based off of the information that I've seen.
Is any of that in your evidence?
That's just I don't know what you're talking about. Market going up. Was that in my evidence?
Yeah. You said what you've observed. Is there evidence to prove that the market only has increases?
Where did I say that?
You just said that you observed the market. I said, did the market just go up? And you said yes.
I didn't say that.
Okay, well then let's clarify over this all. Does the market only have increases in value, or can the market have decreases in value?
Obviously, the markets can have increases or decreases in value, but in my experience over the past 10 years, the market has generally gone up.
In your experience, is that based in sales of properties?
It's based in looking at market information.
Okay.
Sales.
Market information meaning the income and expense forms, right?
Market information being sales and market reports.
Now, you've done some stabilization, I suppose, of methods on page 7. And why did you take off $10,000?
Because if you look on page 11, they have a general item for $10,000, which is substantially higher than everything else that is on there. And I looked in the previous information, and I believe that this was an abnormal figure. And that's why I removed it.
Why are we getting feedback? Somebody said, some people. Okay.
Sorry, and that was just your judgment? Did you check with anyone?
That was just my judgment based off of the previous mailer.
And there was a contact number on this mailer for you to call to verify, isn't there?
I'm not sure.
It's Phil.
For me?
His name is Phil. Did you call Phil to ask him what that was all about? I
did not call Phil.
Okay. And the cap rate of 4.95%, this is based, sorry, I'm just checking something here. What went into this in the model to hit this rate?
I'm not sure how the model established this rate.
Okay. And on your page 9, these are samples, and I think everyone in the room, and we've all been over these before, but what were these particular properties considered in this? Are you relying on any of these?
They do substantiate the rates that we use.
Does it resemble any of them?
Does what resemble what?
Your cap rate. Is there any in here that in particular are supportive of it that you would point out, or are you planning on doing that at all?
Oh, I would just look at them as a whole to indicate that we are within this range.
Those are my questions.
I thank you, Ms. Elizabeth.
No questions, Mr. Chair.
I thank you. Mr. Diamond?
Okay, so on page 7, with your calculations, you formulated what you think is the real actual NOI of 67,601, and you take some deductions. Are you satisfied with the deductions you took off of the expense sheet on the mailer? Would it arrive at would you estimate as a reasonable NOI? The problem is actually achieving?
Yeah, I would say it's a reasonable NOI. Typically, the expense ratio with those adjustments is 60%, and typically for properties like this, they might be around the 50% range in terms of their expense ratio. And so, removing those items and coming up to a 60% operating expense is I would say it's reasonable.
Why would the model be so under? Because that's pretty significant. It's over 10% difference in the actual model amount. Because you have a model NOI of 60,358, and with your calculations on page 7, you show it as being somewhat over $7,000 over, which is more than 10% increase.
Yeah, the model is a kind of like an average of a lot of data, and this is just one. This is just one property. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that I agree with Mr. I see his questions. He's questioning the cap rate, which seems to be on the lower side for a property of this age and size. Why would it have the model choose such a low cap rate?
I believe this cap rate could be on the lower side of things, just because it's an attainable property for a bigger pool of buyers, and so it could be lower because of that.
Would its proximity to St. Barnabas Hospital have any effect on the cap rate?
I would not know that.
Would the model pick that up?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wong, I think I've commented before in regards to what you're doing here, and it opens up a great sort of criticism in regards to what you're trying to do here. And I mean, when you're defending the model, why would you do these calculations if you're just trying to support the model? But if you believe in the calculations that are presented here, why don't you use these figures?
In this case, the figures would result in an increase, and I guess my main objective here is to support the model. And so in putting the actual information in, I'm trying to support the model.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've seen it a few times, and I just look at the operating expense. Well, you know, in the models presentation, you have expense ratio of 49.5. Well, here you got 60.5.
Yeah. Yeah, the model it takes into consideration a lot of information, and whereas this particular income statement is one property.
Yeah, but you're opening, you know, like a can of worms here. You know, in regards to, you know, we can have, and I'm sure Mr. Newfield's going to jump all over this. Anyways, it is what it is, and I don't really have any further questions. So, Mr. Newfield, your presentation.
Yes, I don't. With that sort of intro, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Firstly, I took exception to the assessor's comments that he reviewed last year's statement to support his reduction of $10,000 on his own little workup, and I just emailed the previous year's income and expense form as rebuttal information, and it was 14,000 that year. And the year that he adjusted it was 13,000. There is no such support for his statement. But on my page 1, of course, I have both two previous years, the income fairly consistent at about 141,000, expenses fairly consistent at 85,000. There is no inconsistencies there. There's no anomalies there. Actual NOI 56,000. And it's $4,000 different from what the assessor has, but I think in this case we've got strong, consistent performance, strongly supported, consistent performance, and this is what it is. A note, and you're going to see this later. I asked the question of the assessor about the values only go up, and everyone thinks, oh, they just go up, they just go up. You're going to find a very interesting trend, and you may have seen it already this year, is that incomes have been going down in apartments, and then there's been a bit of going up for some of them. And the strange thing is, as new product came on the market, older buildings suffered. They lost tenants. And then, you know who stepped in and saved them? The Russians. They invaded the Ukraine and we had refugees, and all of a sudden the incomes went back up. So this is what's happening in our market on these. We're seeing for the first time in a long time declining incomes, higher vacancies. But aside from that, the NOI is 56,000. We selected a cap rate of 6.25%. You know, you've been through the whole issues before, you've heard it, but it's essentially has to do with you know, the lack of parking. It's small, and small means that's why the expense ratio is 60%, and that just doesn't account for everything. And there's still the risk of expenses that a single fixed expense is a greater impact on a small unit. There's the concept of more attainable and easier to get at just means that people will go bankrupt. It doesn't mean that there's a market value there. It means people who think that they're buying something that's attainable and bid too much for it because that's what they have are just going to go bankrupt because they can't afford the mortgage. We must use common sense here, and everybody gets treated the same way in investment analysis. On the concept of, and I'll only say all this stuff once, so let's move along quickly, but we do not look at effective year built. We have 3 factors. We have the year built, which does not change. We have the quality, and then the condition. And in this case, all those factors together, based on our opinion, would indicate 6.25%. Now, it is true. I heard a question. I agree with St. Boniface as being a much more aggressive market, and things do perform better there. So my take on that, I did not prepare this, but you know, I wouldn't be as negative as 6.25 on this. I would think a slightly lower number would be more appropriate. Simply because it's a more desired market. And I'm saying that not from anything anecdotal. We just know it is because it's easier to sell a property there. So I would suspect that with the income in place, that we would look slightly lower, and just want to make double check something before I open my big mouth again. Yes, I was thinking more along the lines of 5.75%. And that comes to a value of 974,469, around 974,000.
That's your presentation. Is that your presentation, Mr. Newfield?
Yeah, except one thing. Was there a document submitted? We had a bit of confusion at our end.
Okay.
Called, by itself, called apartment cap data.
Yeah, we had that.
Was that presented?
Yes.
Okay. And it's the rebuttal that we've been over as well. And all I wanted to point out was there is another St. Boniface apartment in the city assessor's workup on 203 Bertrand Street that they have at 4.77, and in that particular document, page 23, we actually sold the property. We capped it at 5.37%. However, that was a renovation project, so it was based on upside income later. And if you got an upside income later, it caps low to start with, so it's artificially low at 5.37. That's my presentation.
So just so I have this correct, you've changed the value to 974?
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Wong, present, questions?
Yeah. I guess, are you aware that the owner purchased the property for $1,250,000?
I've never researched the sale, and I don't really know what the owner's motivation was, but if he had done so, I would suspect that this is an investment flop because it's earning nowhere near that amount to support it.
Do you think the owner would sell it for $900,000 as you suggest?
I have no idea. We're not here to determine if he's going to sell it for that. That's just a meatball valuation. What we're out to do is take a look at the income and look at cap rates. And some sale happens. There's different motivations, different issues. I don't care about that. We're just looking at the income and what the market cap should be.
And you were saying that you didn't prepare this report?
No, I don't prepare these anymore. What the office does.
Okay. Why don't you prepare them?
My reasons.
Oh, so that you're not gonna get into?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, that would be all my questions.
Thank you,
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Diamond.
I have no questions. Thank you.
I have none either. Mr. Newfield, do you want to go through do your rebuttal then, or?
Well, sure. I just already said it, but what I sent in was the the mailer from the previous period, and on the line item, let me just open that up. On the assessor had taken a line item and altered it because he thought it was too high, and the line item he did adjust was R&M general, and his comment was he did it because he compared it to previous years and said it was an anomaly. I sent you the previous years, and on the statement, which would be the 11th page, there is a line item called R&M general, actual $14,771. So it's no anomaly. That's what it's running.
All right. Mr. Wong, questions?
I just want to say, like, you know what, if you look at that line item, it says 14,771, but if you look at what they budgeted 1,560.
Yeah, okay, but you've heard that sometimes stuff happens. So you budget and you don't hit budget. You know, this isn't government.
I'm just saying that
That's yeah. Sorry, I just
misspoke
reject
with
that
regards
comment.
to-
That's
misspoke
the question.
with what I
That's
said before, but,
inappropriate.
that's the reason that I made the adjustment.
Okay, well, you know, real life, real money counts, not budget.
Ms. Nesbitt, questions in regards to the rebuttal?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Diamond?
No questions, thank you.
All right, summation, either party?
Yeah, just that in this particular case, the 2015 sale does indicate that the assessment department's value, along with the cap rate that was used to calculate the value, is reasonably accurate.
All right. Mr. Newfield, anything?
Yeah, you can't default to an old sale because that's why we change assessments every 2 years. Well, sometimes 3 years. The government in its wisdom has determined that markets do change and sometimes they actually go down. And we have noticed that in multifamily, especially in this sector. And no one's doing it on the sales comparison approach. It's always, everyone's done on income. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go on to number 35, Bonita Avenue. Mr. Wong, whenever you're ready. And there was a recommendation on this, so you can deal with both of them.
Yeah, I'll go through my whole report. It's the subject property is 35 Bonita Avenue. The roll number is 080-027-49000. The file number is 22-1917. This is a residential apartment block that's 2 stories high. It was built in 1963 and it has 29 units with 29 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. On page 4 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $823 to get a potential income of $286,000. We use a 3.2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $277,000, and we use a 50% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $136,000. Capped at 5.2%, we have an estimated market value of $2,623,000. On page 5 are some rent comparables, showing that the rents we've used are in line with what's in the market. On page 6 is a summary of the income and expenses from the property owner. Their income is $277,000. Their expenses are $159,000, and their operating income is $118,000. The $118,000 is noticeably lower than what the model is estimated at $136,000. So I'd like to recommend a revised value of $2,271,000 based off of the revised NOI. On page 7 and 8 is information on how we derived our cap rates with some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%. And the remainder of my brief is the income and expense questionnaire from the property owner. So the model rent and the model cap rate in this case is supported by the market, and the revised NOI is supported by the actual NOI. So I ask that you accept the revised value of $2,271,000.
I thank you. Mr. Newfield, are you aware of the recommendation and are you in agreement?
It's awfully tempting, but I think I'd like to go through this and submit.
All right.
Yeah, sorry.
So do you have questions in regards to the value that is presented?
So it was originally the model, and so what was changed in the model was the just the income, or what? Sorry, I'm just catching up here. 50.85. Oh, and the expense ratio was changed, or is it just the income? Oh, okay. So I'll start all over.
You'll get an answer.
Just the expense ratio was changed then, is that correct?
Mr. Wong?
No.
Um, 277,501. 277,217. So a few $100 there, but then the major difference was expense ratio from 50% to 57%. Then are those the two changes?
Mr. Wong?
Sorry, what was the question?
I just wanted to, were there, between what the model generated and what you were recommending, as I note that there's two changes, is that correct? About $300 difference in income and then an expense ratio going from 50% to 57%. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. And you're not saying that this is actual income then, are you?
I don't know what you mean.
This is a workup, right? There's no representation here that this represents actual income, is there?
Well, yeah, it's their 2020.
And
If you
2020.
look on the top of the chart, it says 2020.
Okay. Okay, I see that. Okay. But there's no change to the cap rate then, I take it?
The cap rate is the same.
Yeah, okay. Okay, those are my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Nesbitt?
Mr. Wong, did you give any consideration to looking at the previous couple years and using a stabilized approach to develop your recommendation, or why didn't you, I guess?
Yeah, I just looked at the 2020 and it seemed reasonable and it's actually on the higher end of the range in terms of expense ratio at 57%. So I thought it was reasonable to utilize that for recommended value.
Okay, so you don't know then if 57% is kind of a reflection of the usual circumstance then, or if it's just the 1 year?
Yeah, it's just the 1 year, and the 57% is on the higher end of the range. And like when I look at properties for sale and stuff, they're typically a lot lower than this. And so I thought utilizing this rate was fair and reasonable.
I'm sorry, you said they're typically lower, you mean in terms of expense ratio?
Yeah, like if this property was being sold, it would probably be advertised using like a 40% expense ratio and I guess really high earning. And so that's why I thought that using a 57% was reasonable.
Okay, thank you for clarifying, Mr. Wong. No further questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Diamond?
No questions, but thank you.
I have none. So Mr. Newfield, your presentation?
Thank you. Yes, we looked at 3 years of income, and what we were trying to do in this was the R&M did vary dramatically in this case. But first, oh, sorry, I should tell you about the revenue. Now, remember my funny story about the refugees, the Russians. Well, I mean, it's more than just Russia. It's the situation in Syria and other places. Property demonstrates what was happening in the marketplace. 2018 to 2019 was a drop in revenue. And then with the influx of refugees, then came a return to higher income. And very clear phenomenon that only here we are in January, and it's the first time I actually figured it out and asked the owner why this was happening, and they knew because they manage it. So what we are not using a last year stabilization anymore. We're using a 3-year average on the income because it's going to go up and down. And the expense side, there have been very, very high R&M expenses, and we broke those down below that. For example, in 2018, 173,000, but yet in 2020, they dropped to 46,000. So all of the R&Ms were stabilized at 1,800 a unit, and that resulted in an overall higher NOI for 18 and 19 and a lower NOI for 20. And my confusion when I was asking the assessor about why the numbers didn't match was because we had adjusted our number already for 20. So there's no discrepancy. I'm using an adjusted number. So the NOI 115,000, which is very, very similar to what the assessor had. And so the difference is mostly just cap rate. And again, we reject all notion that 5.2 even exists. Our workup on it came in at 6.1, and I again, as before, I think it's a little too critical. It is a good apartment part of town, and I would say 5.75 is more reasonable. And maybe Mr. Wong's question is, how come I don't do these anymore? If I did, then I couldn't change them on you and then have fun changing them. So I just want to adjust my number upwards at 5.75% to 2,010,000. So 2,010,000.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Mr. Wong, questions?
No questions.
Ms. Nisbet?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you. Mr. Diamond?
No questions.
Either party wants summary?
No, thank you.
Nope.
Okay. Number 76, Niagara Road. Mr. Wong?
The subject property is 76 Niagara Road. The roll number is 080-021-66400. The file number is 22-2609. This is a residential apartment block that's 3 stories high. It was built in 1971 and it has 54 suites with 54 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. On page 4 is our income valuation summary. We use an average rent of $975 to get a potential income of $631,000. We use a 3.2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $611,000, and we use the 53% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $281,000. Capped at 5.2%, we have an estimated market value of $5,412,000. On page 5 are some rent comparables showing that the rents we've used are in line with what's in the market. On page 6 is a summary of the income and expenses submitted by the owner. In 2020, their income was $623,000. Their income was $298,000, but that included some interest expense. So we removed that, and that gives the expenses to be $292,000. The estimated NOI for 2020 is $331,000, and that's approximately $50,000 higher than what the model is estimated at $281,000. So their actual performance supports the model's net operating income. On page 7 and 8 is information on how we derived our cap rates, with some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%. And the remainder of the brief is the questionnaire filled out by the property owner. So the model rent and cap rate are supported by the market, and their actual NOI supports the model NOI, and it's actually about 50,000 higher than the model NOI. So I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $5,412,000.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. Newfield?
In regard to the cap rate at 5.2%, now this is a 1971 construction, and it's masonry block. Why would this be higher cap rate than the two older ones which we've just heard?
I'm not really too sure, but like a 5.2 cap rate is, in my view, it's pretty much right in the heart of it, and maybe slightly on the high side for this type of building.
Okay, but this is how the model works, not how you work, right? What do we know why the model did this?
I don't know.
Those are my questions.
Thank you, Ms. Nisbet.
No questions, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Mr. Diamond?
Yeah, so this property model picked a 4.95% cap rate. It's almost the same age as the other property on the Aqua, where the model picked a 5.2% cap rate. So can you tell me why the model would be a quarter of like 25 basis points lower on this property than the one we just held for 26 Aqua Road?
I think as far as I'm not 100% sure, but I think the property on the Aqua Road is about half the size of the subject property of this property. So that could potentially be it, but I am not sure.
Okay, thank you.
I have no questions. Mr. Newfield, your presentation.
Yeah, one sec. In this particular case, the property had undergone a fair amount of renovation work in previous years, and the R&M during those years, it wasn't a major renovation all done at once, but it was 3 straight years of fairly intensive renovations, and during that period, the income dropped considerably. And as of the last reference year, the renovations were complete, and then the R&M was $600 a unit, which is well below market. And so I guess the person who did this said, you know, we got 2 choices here. We can adjust it upwards to stabilize it, and that's, you know, going to be about $64,000 adjustment, or just accept the assessor's number, which is the same number basically from the actual. So with making a shorter hearing date, that's what we did. But there is a really solid rationale behind that. As far as the cap rate is concerned, again, I think that one of the things Colliers has always been focused on is the difference between masonry and wood. And investors like masonry better, and so this would probably be a more aggressive cap rate at 5.5%, and so I would like to adjust it to that.
Your NOI are exactly the same as the city?
Well, we ended up using it because our adjusted NOI would have been very close, and then we would have been arguing about it for 30 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, you have a new value.
Yeah, you probably got it before I did.
I'm not working on it.
117, 5,117,000.
I don't think so, Mr. Newfeld, unless you want to increase your assessment.
Okay, I will.
No, what?
It's assessed right now, 4,325,000, not over 5 million.
What property are we talking about?
What is
Aqua Road,
which property are you talking about? Are you talking about
76.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so who's the
I
joke
know it's a
on?
long day.
It's okay, it's been a long day. You know what, actually, I've got ahead of myself. Sorry, Mr. Newfeld.
Okay, I get Rocky's figure,
Okay.
5,117,000.
Okay,
Mr. Newfield, that's your presentation?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Wong, questions?
So you didn't use the 2020 income statement for your calculation?
That's correct. And what I told you is it needed an upward adjustment on the R&M. And rather than do that, and the upward adjustment would have been $64,000, because you see how low it actually was in 2020, because there was a tremendous amount of work that was done.
Yeah.
So we ended up
1,000 per unit.
This company runs higher R&Ms than most, and they do spend the money. So rather than bothering with the adjustment on it and then debating about it, we just took the in our mind, it looked like the number really close to what the model showed. So I don't know if we want to debate something that's not under debate, but that's what we did.
Okay. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Mrs.
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Diamond?
and Mr. Newfeld, which property would you think with? I have no questions either. Thank you.
Either party wants summation?
No, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Newfield, you okay?
No, I'm fine, thanks.
Okay. We'll go to 100 Niagara Road. Mr. Wong?
Okay, the subject property is 100 Niagara Road. The roll number is 080-021-67400. The file number is 22-2614. This is a residential apartment block that's 6 stories high. It was built in 1978 and it has 42 units with 7 indoor parking stalls and 40 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property. On page 4 is our income valuation summary. We used average rents of $874 to get a potential income of $440,000. We used a 3.2% vacancy, get an effective gross income of $426,000, and we used a 49% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $214,000. Capped at 4.95%, we have an estimated market value of $4,325,000. On page 5 are our rent comparables, showing that the rent reviews are in line with what's in the market. On page 6 is a summary of the income and expenses. In 2020, their income is $477,000, and their expenses are $259,000. Their net operating income is $218,000, which is a little bit higher than what the model is estimated at $214,000. So it is supportive of the model. On page 7 and 8 is information on how we derived our cap rates, along with some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%. And on page 10 and 11 is the mailer submitted by the owner. So the model rent and cap rate are supported by the market, and their actual NOI supports the model NOI. So I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $4,325,000.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. Newfield?
I'm sorry. Does the model have a different cap rate depending on the size, the number of floors?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And your workup on page 6, that was just a single year, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Ms. Nesbitt?
Mr. Wong, your cap rate is aggressive compared to the other properties. I'm looking at some of the other ones that are about the same age. The suite mix is, well, even comparing to the other Niagara property. Can you explain the aggressive cap rate on this property, please?
Actually, this one is the same cap rate as the one that
I'm sorry, I'm having a really hard time hearing. I'm getting some other noise.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
you maybe having your volume for the computer on?
Yeah, I think I'm having some internet connection issues sometimes.
Okay, I can hear now.
Okay.
So go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. It sometimes a little pop-up thing says like your connection is not so good or something. So I think that might have something to do with it. But
Okay,
with regards to this cap rate, it's actually the same as the property on Bonita, which is, I guess it happens to be a very similar size. So like 2 properties ago, it was 4.95. And with regards to like a 4.95 cap rate being aggressive, based off of some of the appraisals that I've seen, there's a lot of cap rates that are in the 4% range and in the 3% range as well. So a 4.95 cap is pretty much very middle of the road.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the cap rate used for Bonita. It was 5.2, and the one on Ulno was 4.95, but it had 14 suites. And you indicated there that the property is probably more attainable to a larger pool of potential property owners if it went on the market. So that was 14 suite. This one's 42. The Ulno property was 1968. This is 1978. So there are differences between the two properties. So I'm just trying to wrap my brain around this particular cap rate.
Yeah. Like I'm not sure how the model calculates the slightly different cap rates for these properties. What I can say is that the 4.9 is pretty much right in the heart of a lot of the cap rates in the appraisals that I've seen and the sales that they've used. So yeah, like I said, I've seen cap rates that are typically in the 4 to 5% range, and this one is at the higher, like a 4.95 is at the higher end of that range. So it's a reasonable cap rate in my experience.
And I'm looking at your table then on page 7. It is at the lower end of your cap rates when you look between the 20th and 80th percentile. So yeah. Yeah,
it's kind of right. Yeah, it's kind of right in there.
So what is it then about this property that brings it to that low end of the percentile?
Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to tell you what the difference is between 4.95 and 4.2. I'm not sure.
And 5.2, yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Wong. No further questions, Mr. Chair.
I thank you, Mr. Diamond.
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
I think Ms. Nesbitt answered all my questions also. Yeah. So, Mr. Newfield, your presentation for 100 Naqua Road.
As before, we're looking at more of an averaging world than a gradually increasing world. That's the nature of what's happened in apartments. And our NOI calculation is therefore 197,032. The cap rate again. I am going to change this again because, like, I want to be consistent and keep doing it. Well, I've got to tell you, one of the horrible ironies that happened here in our office yesterday. All the cap rates that we had were released to me. And so I've got like 15 cap rates, and I'm obviously they're too late to enter as evidence, and but with them, you know, let's just say that when we say on our reports that the lowest cap rate is 5%, it is the lowest cap rate. There's nothing below 5. We don't count them because they're not real. So in this case, I told you we have this favoritism towards masonry construction, and 5.5% seems reasonable. And so our number is changed to 3,582,000 at 5.5%.
I thank you, Mr. Wall.
No questions.
Nesbitt,
No questions, Mr. Chair.
thank you. Mr. Diamond,
No questions, thank you.
summation, either party?
No, thank you.
I had a brief comment. Assessor's page 6, he included interest income. That's all.
Thank you. We'll go to number 19, Michael's Road, Mr. Wong. And there's a recommendation on this property,
Yeah,
but
I'll
you
just-
can deal with both of them.
Yeah, I'll just
Yeah.
go through it. The subject property is 19 St. Michael Road. The roll number is 080-040-68500. The file number is 22-2691. This is a residential apartment block that's 2 stories high. It was built in 1968 and has 45 suites with 39 outdoor parking stalls. On page 2 is a sales history of the subject property. It partially sold for $450,000, but the sworn value for the property is $3.6 million in 2014. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. Once again, it's near St. Vital Shopping Center. On page 4 is our income valuation summary. We use average rent of $942 to get a potential income of $509,000. We use a 3.2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $492,000. And we use a 55% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $217,000. At the 5.2%, we have an estimated market value of $4,192,000. On page 5 are some rent comparables showing that the rents reviews are in line with what's in the market. On page 6 is a summary of the income and expenses submitted by the owner. Their estimated operating income is about $204,000. That's lower than what the model has estimated at $217,000. So I'd like to provide a recommended revised value of $3,920,000 or $930,000. On page 7 and 8 is information on how we derived our cap rates and some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%. The remainder of my brief is the income and expenses submitted by the owner. But when you look at the rent and the cap rate, in this case, they are supported by the market, and the revised net operating income is supported by the actual net operating income. And also the 2014 sworn value of $3,600,000 supports the revised value of $3,930,000. So I ask that you accept the revised value of $3,930,000.
Mr. Newfield, are you aware of the recommendation, or are you in agreement?
No, I'm not.
All right. Questions then of the assessor?
Yes. Now there's a request for information on the 2014 sale. Is that included anywhere in here?
No.
Did you investigate what the mailer said?
No,
Are you familiar with partial interests?
um, just that it's a partial interest.
Right, but are you familiar with the valuation of partial interests?
I'm not sure.
Have you ever heard of what the CRA and the IRS do with partial interests?
No,
Okay. Do you know the distribution date for the income from the property?
no,
And no, I mean, I don't have any original questions to ask other than just to confirm that page 6, this is a 1-year picture only.
yes.
Okay, those are my questions.
All right, thank you. Elizabeth?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Mr. Diamond?
And thank you. I have no questions as well.
I have none. I thank you. Mr. Newfield, your presentation?
Yeah, this is an unusual building from an ownership perspective. It's owned by 8 individuals, and they have an agreement. And I actually appraised this a couple of times for the IRS and CRA when one of the unit holders passed away, and the value was determined for taxes. It's a very interesting prospect in that you have to look at a lot of things in partial interests, and I'm not going to give you with the big long issues on what they all are or any more detail, but the point is you got to look at like things like when does the money get distributed, because that matters the value of the partial interest. And that's why you see that when all the partial interest sales that have taken place on this property, the assessor has reported there's been 4 of them, and they go up, they go down, and that's the distribution. And then there's the voting right, and then there's the shotgun clauses and the rest of that. Not the most reliable, but there's one constant is that that taxation authorities levy a 15%, allow you to levy a 15 to 25% discount on partial interest for the value because of the ownership situation. And when our act talks about the value that you're supposed to look at, it doesn't say fee simple. It says the market value of the subject property. In this case, the market value is impacted by an ownership scheme, which restricts who can buy and who can sell. You can't take your partial interest and just sell it to anyone. It's got to go through everybody, and then they have the right, if they turn it down and you try to sell it to someone else, then they have the right to take over that deal. It's an interesting situation. And now, firstly, of course, you're going to disregard all the sales information as a result of hearing that. But then the next thing is, does this have restrictions in its titles or in its legal rights to value? It does. So in this particular case, we had used the same rationale as before on 3 years averaging income, and you can see that there was one high expense year, and that's typical. A high 1 year, lower the next. The thing about partial interest is because you have 8 votes, they tend to at the end of the day have a lot of deferred maintenance, because people don't, when you get a group of people together and they say, should we spend our money and fix things up, it's pretty hard to get approval. And so the answer is usually no. So we know, I've been in the site, and so the deferred maintenance is fairly substantial. And in the long run, an individual owner would be putting a lot more effort into maintaining than has been done here. And what happens with deferred maintenance is 1 year creeps up on you and you got a big bill, rather than keeping on top of it every year. So, but having said all that, The NOI is 187,000, and I'm not changing the cap here because this is a restricted title situation, and it's not captured in our cap rate chart in page 2 because I didn't do this, and the person who did was not aware that there's a restriction on property rights, and it's a real restriction. And our act does take this into account. We are not a fee simple province. It can't be sold on the open market, so therefore we can't just assume arbitrarily that you could do it. So my value is 3,122,000. Sorry, no change there.
Thank you, Mr. Newfield. Mr. Wong, questions?
Were you saying that this property can't be sold?
I think that that is my conclusion, my opinion, based on what I've seen. It'll be virtually impossible to sell because of the style of ownership. I have the ownership agreement in my files, and I haven't looked over for a while, but that was my conclusion at the time when I did the valuations.
So based off of that, then that line of thinking, wouldn't the property be worth 0?
Okay, I'll go for 0. If you'd like to make the argument, no, I mean, yeah, you know, and that's being a little too close-minded to say that it can't be sold. There will be numerous obstacles to selling it, and numerous difficulties to selling it, and that will put a downward pressure on value.
So is it possible that every owner in Winnipeg could say that, yeah, this property is restricted, so it should have a higher cap rate? Could they do that?
Well, you know, every situation is different, and you know, in my career, I've dealt with real situations of partial interests about 3 or 4 times, and generally it occurs when the value is high and the parties don't have had or their family have had a falling out, or they're old time friends who haven't seen each other in years, and they die and their kids take over. That's actually one of the situations that's occurred here. So it has the potential for going bad, but it's not an everyday occurrence. And for people to deliberately manipulate it and use it to their advantage, well, you know what? They should get caught on it. I'm an appraiser, and I got to interview the people who were involved, so I was quite convinced that we had some ownership blockages.
Okay, that would be all my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Nesbitt?
I have no questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Diamond?
So, Mr. Newfield, we're not really dealing with partial interest here, though. We're dealing with what the property would be worth if it was sold as a whole. And the practicalities over the matter as far as the assessment is concerned. Do you agree with that?
No, because that's a hypothetical assumption, and the hypothetical assumption then would have to be envisioned by the legislature when they made the act. They would have said, I would like fee simple on there as an example, as though unencumbered. Our legislation doesn't do it, and I know, and I've seen the case law where in the municipal board, for example, where encumbrances count. We know that strata titles have different encumbrances, and they count.
We're not talking about a strata title here. We're talking about an in fee simple title that's got multiple owners to it.
We're talking about a concept called partial interest, which is
Partial interest in the fee simple title.
Yes, but it is a factor that has been accepted by courts, by the IRS, and by the CRA as an impact on value.
And a purchaser would look at if the property is for sale, hypothetically, we have to look at it being for sale. Because some properties are never going to be sold because the party might have one owner who's never going to sell it.
Well, there's no such
thing.
thing.
Be valued.
I know, but there's no such thing as a hypothetical value in ad valorem taxation in Manitoba.
Yeah, I'm having trouble getting around that, but okay. You're
no, and I knew you'd have some wonderful questions here.
Well, that works. So there's more where that came from, because you asked me to ask them. Okay,
No, I'm glad, but I've probably done more partial interest work than most people in this province do.
okay.
Because,
And I know about partial interest. I mean, I'm talking to, and I
Yeah,
know from a tax point of view, there might be a minority shareholders discount on the value, but that's not what we're talking about here. Because nobody's buying a minority, it's just looking at the value of the property as a whole.
but you can't,
Yes, you can.
can't bring it to market.
Okay, that's your answer. Next question. So you're saying that if there's deferred maintenance on a property,
Yes.
the person's been taking out more money because they're putting less back into it. That they should then, when later on, they should be able to say, I've been taking more money out of this, not doing maintenance that I should be doing. So you should, every other taxpayer should pay more taxes because I want to decrease assess for my property because I'm not being a good, prudent manager of my investment. That's your essence of the argument.
No, as a matter of fact, wouldn't it be the opposite? Because the income's showing higher than it should right now. So they're gonna pay more taxes right now. It's when it all catches up to them that it hurts them.
Well, that's what I'm wondering why your NOI is lower than what the model is if you're taking extra money out of it.
Well,
The NOI on the mailer shows a lower NOI than the model has prescribed.
yeah, you see, I don't use the model as my yardstick for rational thinking.
No, I know, but if I were to use your rationale though, I would expect to see a higher NOI on the.
I've known that I've worked with this building for, actually, I was engaged on this building before I even came to Colliers, and probably 20 years on the issues. And it's shown a period of high revenue offset by the deferred maintenance catch up every so often, every few years. So what we've done is not what you're suggesting, going whether it's going to be more money out one year and the taxpayers burden. No, what we did is averaged it out. That's the way to deal with it. So we've ignored the issue of what they're doing because they had to play catch up. In 2018, you can see they had to play catch up for their deferred maintenance. And then they took a holiday for 2019 and 2020 with more revenue coming out of it. And then there'll be a catch up year when the deferred maintenance catches up with them.
Okay, so your experience, what would be a reasonable amount of maintenance on a building like this per suite?
Well, this
On an annual basis, if you did it every year and didn't have this catch up.
Yeah, this particular company, the manager their average is 1,800 a door.
And that's reasonable?
Well, I think it's pretty reasonable because they keep theirs in pretty good condition.
You were just saying that they're doing maintenance and that they're doing deferred maintenance.
Well, no, the company that manages it are just the managers in this particular instance. They don't have the control over the expenditures. There are other.
You're saying if they're doing good maintenance, it'd be about $1,800 a door per year.
Yes, there are other 99 properties. They'll be averaging 18 a door.
And you're saying in 2020 they took a holiday, so they're going to catch up sometime.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the numbers here. I hadn't taken a look to see what they're actually spending.
Yeah, they're spending, I think it's really in 2020, they spent $1,826 a door.
Okay.
So this looks like they took a holiday then in 2020.
Not necessarily, no. Again, I'm not as prepared for this, but let me just, I was should look through some of the other statements here. I've got them quite handy here. So that was the current one, yes. And then previous year was that was the high year, 18, I see that, and then the middle year. So they had another year that was prior to this, about 1,600. And, I'm just going back in time and looking at it. I have a previous year here that's 1,000. That's in 17. And then in 16, it was 1,600. Previous year 1,500, and I'm running. I have to look for another file for the rest of them.
That's fine. Thank you for your answer, Mr. Nichol. That's all my questions.
But I have been in the building, and I have noted that the condition is higher amount of deferred maintenance than most of the buildings managed by this company.
Summation needed, party?
Oh, thank you.
Mr.
I mean, it's just an unusual situation, and it's
Okay.
a market anomaly. Thank you.
Let's go to the last one that we have is 409 St. Anne's Road. Mr. Wong, whenever you're ready.
Okay, the subject property is 409 St. Anne's Road. The roll number is 080-030-24200. The file number is 22-2688. This is a residential apartment block that's 2 stories high. It was built in 1957 and has 11 suites with 11 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. On page 4 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $706 to get a potential income of $93,000. We use a 3.2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $90,000. And we used a 57% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $38,000. Capped at 5.1%, we have an estimated market value of $754,000. On page 5 are some rent comparables showing that the rents we've used are in line with what's in the market. On page 6 is a summary of the income and expenses submitted by the owner. Their estimated operating income for 2020 is $36,000, and that is a little bit lower than what the model is estimated at $38,000, but I believe it is supportive. On page 7 and 8 is information on how we derive our cap rates. On page 10 and 11 is the mailer submitted by the owner. So the model rent and cap rate are supported by the market, and their actual NOI also supports the model NOI. So I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $754,000.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. Newfield, questions?
Page 4, then this is all model, and I take it, and just wondering about the age and the cap rate. This is I guess the oldest property we've heard today, and it's at 5.1. Wouldn't you expect it to be higher than the other ones we've heard?
No, all these cap rates are following around the same area, like maybe 4.9 or 5.2. So I would expect them all to be in and around that, and they indeed are. So the fact that they're different 5.1 or 0.2, I'm not sure why.
Okay, and just a question here. I just want to, before you go anywhere, let's see. Those are my questions.
I thank you. Ms. Nesbitt?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
I thank you. Mr. Diamond?
No questions, thank you.
I have none. Mr. Newfield, your presentation?
Yes, I just noticed something really strange here that I don't think this was the right submission, but we're using 2018 income. Apparently this is all we had, and I'm puzzled by that. But in a way, this is managed by Smith, but this is not their, this is a third party. So we never got these statements. I don't think our workup is remotely accurate. I think that the the assessor has an NOI that we haven't seen ever, and that's.
Mr. Newfield, do you want to take 5 minutes?
I think I know what I'd like to do is just delete the NOI and deal with the assessment NOI. Because they've got more up-to-date information, and they're indicating, and it's the first time I've seen it, but page 6, and I've quickly read the statement, got no exceptions to take to the statement because this looks about right. We're prepared to look at, and I know it's kind of it looks like I'm trying to get an advantage here, but you can see we made a mistake. The assessment NOI of 38,437, 38,437. I would probably think that there's a municipal act 3632. We would be presenting information that differs, and so we have to rely on what the assessor has, and so in that respect, we would just like to dispute their cap rate, and our workup on the cap rate is again, this is another St. Anne's one, and we had talked earlier about 5.75% being for that area. So I would request a value using the assessment NOI of 38,437 and a cap rate of 5.75 for a number of 668,469, rounded to 668.
I thank you, Mr. Newfield.
Yeah, okay. And I'm trying to figure out, we have nothing in our file here.
Yeah. Mr. Wong, questions of Mr. Newfield?
No questions.
Ms. Nesbitt?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Diamond?
No questions, thank you.
All right. Mr. Newfield, thank you for your presentations, results very soon.
Sorry, I just wouldn't like to say something for my credibility here. I am looking at a statement that we have on file that's completely covered in whiteout from the client. It was Christmas. That's all I can say. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Wong, thank you for your presentations, and have a good evening, and the same to you, Mr. Newfield. We have heard all the items scheduled, and this hearing is now adjourned.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Mr. Chair, can we take 5?
Sure.
I need 5 too.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
doing the order.
Yes.